Now, again, look at the Bitcoin futures, and we see the same thing with the IBIT ETF. They look nearly identical. And again, we've had the awesome oscillator turn red. We've had this sell-off with the divergence that formed on the MACD. It gave us a sell-off. The awesome oscillator is still in positive territory. Okay, you're likely going to see green bars and have it turn back up and form a divergence, or if we have peaked, get a lower high, confirm a lower high or a divergence. My guess is you're still going to move up to the trend line, but with the sell-off on Thursday, which we're now trying to completely recover those losses, more signals turn bearish. So we've got now momentum bearish, the trending signals bearish, but it's likely, in my opinion, likely a counter trend, and we're probably going to still pop to new highs and complete this divergence right here. The sell-off has taken us back to the 50 period on Bitcoin's price, not here with futures, but on Bitcoin's price. I still think you're going to end up seeing a divergence develop on the MACD here, on the awesome oscillator here, and I think that will take us to levels just above this 112,000 area. But here you can see that I'm still looking for this divergence, much like what we had over here. We had this divergence going into the peak there in December. You're going to see something very similar to that here. We had the bullish divergence give us this next push down right here that formed the double bottom. Similar here, we had this little divergence right here, give us this rebound, but then we got a bigger divergence. I still think you're going to get this divergence. Signals are bearish. You have a bearish reversal of conditions. We're getting a big rally back up of over 3.5% here with the Bitcoin futures at the moment, but you got to flip the cloud back to red. You got to flip the bars back to blue. I think that's going to happen. Next week. We go in to get the CPI, or going into the Fed meeting the following week and the next week and a half. Certainly possible. I think that is likely going to be the case. Please support the channel with a link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel. I don't sell you things by getting sponsors. They contact me all the time. I turn those offers down. I don't want to sell you stuff, but I just ask that you partner with me and support the channel if you like the information. Most YouTube channels make their money through the sponsors. I choose not to do that. I need to hear from you in order to make that work. Let me know you want this information rather than me going golfing or something, you know. A lot of time and effort to do this. Just ask that you help out. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Again, I'm looking for this divergence to set up on the awesome oscillator and on the RSI. I think it's going to happen. I think you're likely going to push into the target level from these previous highs that I've talked about. Still get a lower high and come back and get the deeper pullback to test the 200 right now. That's certainly possible. Certainly possible we peaked at 112,000, overthrowing the trend line there at 111,000. Certainly possible. I don't want to rule that out, but my guess is we're going to end up forming the divergence on the RSI and the awesome oscillator. I still think that. I think you'll probably see it develop on the MACD as well. I think the MACD will recycle back up. You'll get a bullish cross, and shortly after that, you'll see a peak and the divergence complete, and that'll give us the bigger sell-off for the right shoulder. Be wrong about that? Yep, I could be completely wrong, but right about the bottom. I was right about the rally. My guess is I'll be right about that, but again, I just want to let you know it's my opinion. Just looking at support and resistance levels, I still think this divergence plays out. I still think that we likely have not completed our first wave higher, but I'd be wrong about that. It could be done. We're getting the bullish divergence on the MACD. We got a Class B divergence, almost two equal lows there, with price moving lower on the RSI. Two scenarios. This one I think is less likely, but still in play, that we've already peaked. We have a 5-leg push higher. We get 1, 2. This is 3. We get 4, and then we get 5, and now you're getting ABC. That's certainly possible. The other possibility, finish with this. This possibility is that we get A here, that we're coming down, and then we get B, and then we get C, and that this is a counter trend that'll give us a lower high. Scenario I think is more likely, but not guaranteed to play out, that we have a bull flag, coming up to the bull flag. Maybe we pull back and consolidate a little bit more, but you have an ABC done. Maybe the complex pattern. I've just marked it as a simple 3-3-5 pattern. And again, an ABC move. We get a bull flag. You're going to break out. You get back above the cloud, and you get this pop higher, and you form the divergence, and you get another divergence reference point or a brand new one here on the RSI, and the bullish divergence on the MACD takes us higher, and we end up forming a larger divergence right here, building upon this one, or forming a brand new one. So again, this is what I think is likely, but the other scenario certainly is possible, and we don't want to rule that out. I think you get the bigger pullback and frustrate the herd. We're getting ready, though, to get a bearish death cross. So again, maybe we overthrow and just get the lower high, or get the death cross and it's quickly canceled out. Over here we had a death cross. I'm sorry, we had a bullish golden cross, and it was followed by quickly by a death cross, and that ended up giving us another push down. Do we end up getting a death cross followed by a bullish cross that gives us another push up? Possibly. I want to watch the video all the way through. I've got important signals that I'm watching. And I think if we do push higher, if this is a wave 4, now complete, I wouldn't be surprised. The IBIT ETF here pushed right up into this trend line right here, move to a new high, but then top out. And again, that could take Bitcoin into the 114 to 116,000 area, be just a little bit higher. Yep, I went on long, getting a lot of questions through a lot of the indicators to show you what's going on. We're getting some bottoming signals here. Again, I told you over here, we move back to my Bitcoin chart, that we might bounce off the 200 or slightly overthrow it. We slightly overthrew it. Now we're trying to get back above it, but you got the possibility of a death cross. Get a death cross, you could see something like what we had over here. Bullish cross followed by a death cross followed by a bullish cross if we have a topping process on our hands. So I'm going to leave the video long. I'm not going to edit it to be shorter because there's signals you need to see. We're getting some bottoming signals here. Here we've just overthrown the 200 period. Do we bounce off this 200? What I've talked about at great length and detail. The charts, you can make up your own mind what you think. Peaked over here. Do we get a bigger pullback now? They're telling us it's over. It's over. You know, Trump and Elon are going to tank the markets and tank crypto and everything else. And the same nonsense the bears have been telling us all the way up when I called the very day of the bottom and predicted this rally. My guess is it's not over with, but I'll let you show you the charts, let you make up your own mind. Do you think the top is in, we get a lower high and a bigger pullback right now? Possible. I think that we're going to go make that newer high, as I think we're likely going to do, but I could be completely wrong if we've already topped and we're already in the counter trend. It is very possible. Already getting, I should say, the pullback. Watch the video all the way through. Bitcoin dropped by 4% down to the 50-period moving average on Thursday. It ended up closing down not 4% lower, but 2.97% lower. Right now, we are up 3.41% on Bitcoin, and again, completely recovering those losses from the previous day. We have a bull flag pattern that's forming at the 50-period moving average. You're hitting this horizontal support level I talked about, the 200-period moving average on the 4-hour chart. We're just overthrowing it. The support zone area here, we're hitting this, the 50-period moving average. So again, I still think you're likely going to pop up to this area. The trend line right here, these highs likely pointing to the next high, and I think you're going to go to that that trend line, which is currently now not at 113,000, but now at 114,000. I told you if we take our time reaching it, the further to the right we go to the chart, the higher the trend line goes. So now it's about 114,000 and some change. But even overthrow it and go to 115, 116, or beyond it to 117 to 121,000 towards the 78.6 fib expansion, as I've been talking about. Likely getting this sell-off, you're probably going to pop higher up into this area, and then I think you'll end up getting a bigger pullback. Whole move down has disappointed the herd, frustrating them. Pop higher, because again, they told us it's a breakout, and it was a fake out, and we'll probably see another one. We'll probably come up here, form the divergence on the awesome oscillator, on the RSI, and then you'll probably get a bigger pullback going further into the month of June, maybe going into Independence Day, the 4th of July in the United States, if we drop higher but then drop back and complete a divergence. The other possibility is that we don't make a new high and that we have this first move down, which is an A move, and we get a B and we get a lower high, and then we come back down and we come in here. That is also on the table, as I've been talking about. That possibility is still in play, that we've already started the larger pullback for wave 2 and the right shoulder. So you're watching, is wave 1 done and we pop to, we can't make new highs, or is it not done and we make a new high and then get the bigger pullback? So those are the two scenarios I've been talking about. If we complete a bull flag today here with the bounce off of the 50 period, you might try to break out today or on into the weekend. Going into next week, we'll be watching how this unfolds. I told you we still have a 13 count in play. It looks like NASDAQ or S&P and NASDAQ might try to form those patterns today. Possibly a 9.9 or 9.13 on NASDAQ and a 13 count completing on S&P possibly today. It's tried it a couple of times and has been unsuccessful. But I think Bitcoin will eventually form a 13 count as well. Either the lower high scenario or the higher high. Regardless, I'm looking for a bigger pullback. Has it started? Maybe. Remain open-minded and flexible. The resistance is up in here, and I told you we might turn at this trend line. Well, so far we have. This is where price is still going to reach this other trend line. I could be completely wrong about that if we get a lower high and if the correction has already started. But I have the guts to tell you what I think. I'm not Nostradamus. I look at support and resistance levels. We're bouncing off support. The horizontal support, the 50 period moving average. You got a bullish pattern here. So again, could we go to a new high? Yeah, I think we will in all likelihood. Could I be wrong about that? My signals have all turned back to bearish. They would have to flip back to bullish, but I still think we're going to do that and reach the upper Bollinger Band in all likelihood, and some of the sell signals that we didn't get over here, likely over here somewhere, and I do believe these highs are pointing to the next high. You got a 13 count that marked the December top. You got a 9 count that marked the peak in January, the day after. You had a 13 count here. And again, we moved a little bit lower. I think you're going to see something very similar to this, where you get a 13 count, you move a little higher, but then you top out. And you move probably just above the 112,000 area, like I said, to the 114, maybe 115, 16,000 now. Again, it was at 113,000. The trend line's moving, taking our time reaching it. The weekly chart, weekly time frame, I should say. The longer we take to reach the trend line, the higher the target goes. And that's what we have right here. If you made incredible calls, calling the day of the bottom, of this bottom and the bottom over here, calling that double bottom on both of those bottoms, predicting this rally, making absolutely incredible calls, doing it looking at support and resistance. I'm not some fake fortune teller. If you're looking for a fake fortune teller or Nostradamus, you're in the wrong place, because I can make incredible calls because I have good indicators. But we have to have realistic expectations. I don't know if we're going to get a lower high or a higher high. That's realistic. Some people are so out of touch with reality. I call the day of the bottom here, told you the day, I had several signals mark it, and I told you we were going to bottom with the tariffs. People with unrealistic expectations. Okay, you told us the day of the bottom. Tell us what day, what hour, what time we're going to top. You see how unrealistic people can be? No, we have a top. Signals say so. Pointed out that there was a lack of topping signals here, even though we turned off of resistance. And still think we're likely going to move to new highs. That doesn't have to happen. It could be lower high, but I am open-minded to one of those scenarios. I think we get a bigger pullback. We may be in it. Let's have realistic expectations and be looking for clues. Do we get a higher high? Do we get a lower high? And not have unrealistic expectations. A lot of money is to be made here. Those who are diligent and looking for the clues. This is one of the reasons why I sold into the rally the day before the top. I sold 75% because I knew there was a risk of a pullback. I talked about that at the time on May 21st when I did that. A massive position down at these lows underneath the 200 and at our Bitcoin average price down here at these lows. Accumulating a position before the rally here or over here ever started. my indicators were telling me we were a bottoming process. I've talked about that at great length and detail. So I think you're still going to pop higher. We'll see if we get a lower high or a higher high. My guess is a higher high. I could be wrong about that, but I have the guts to tell you what I'm thinking. I told you, again, I sold into the rally the day before the peak. You're breaking to new highs. I sold near the highs of that session and near the highs when we peaked the very next day. Position back here, told you we might go a little bit lower below this low and hit our 200 period just beyond the 200, move beyond the 200 period on the 4-hour time frame. That's correct. So again, I bought the position back, going to sell into the rally, on to 25% of it. Absolutely incredible trades going on. And again, I have another trade that's my core position where I'm ignoring short-term price fluctuations, and I intend to hold that for several months. But my swing trade, I'm trying to play this wave one, and like I said, I took 75% off the table at this resistance level, trying to buy support because I do believe we're probably still going to reach this level. I still believe we're likely going to see a 13 count develop on Bitcoin. So that's why I'm playing it. You can play it the way you want. Not a recommendation to buy or sell anything. I'm just telling you what I'm doing because I'm winning. I'm winning because I have good indicators. Absolutely incredible trades. We're forming this bull flag. I think it'll eventually break out, and then we'll go back and test this high. My guess is we're going to move to a higher high. You had the 9 count over here. It was not perfected, but we still had a trend extension. We still corrected sideways. We had a trend extension. We got up to bar 12. Can you see the bar 12 at the high bar right there? Can you see that? I'm blocking it a little bit with my trend line there for the bull flag, but that's bar 12. Okay. We've had counts to the downside and upside fail. Okay, break out, you might see their 9 count try to start. That's certainly possible. It doesn't have to complete. It'll likely start. One start at the bottom after the 13 count. We started another 9 count to the downside, and we only got to bar 5. And we got that reversal bar, and we completed the reversal. Completed the 13, you went lower. We're likely going to complete a 13 count and then go higher. Over here, we got up to bar 12. Eventually, when we get above the bar from 2 bars ago, very soon, if we break out, you'll see a 13 count appear, and we'll probably continue above the 13 count and maybe complete a 9 count, but you're probably going to see something very similar to what we saw at the bottom in reverse. You'll probably see an overthrow of this level and probably the divergence complete that I'm talking about on the awesome oscillator and the RSI. I think you'll get the 13 count, and then we'll go a little bit higher. We could peak with the inflation data next week. We could peak with the Fed the following week. I think you'll get a bigger sell-off. If we get the counter trend, we'll stop making new highs. We'll get a lower high, and you'll get something that looks like this, where we get a rally and then it fails when we go down, and that would mean the signals remain bearish. Just have a counter trend rally. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? I don't know the future. I'm looking at my trader. I look at support and resistance with excellent indicators. For the future, you're one up on me. Predict things, tell you what I think is going to happen. We're going to complete a wave one. My guess is it's not done yet. Then we pull back. Could be done over here. Trader, I'm flexible. That's how I win. Don't be out of touch with reality like the herd and the moon boys looking for clues. And we make a higher high. Now, if we make a higher high, I don't think the rally keeps going. Again, I tell you what I think because I think we're completing a wave one and then we're going to get a wave two. And I think those divergences will mark a reversal. I think the divergences will complete. So that's the way I think it's going to play out. But absolutely incredible signals, absolutely incredible trades. Again, went out. I closed out 75% of my position as we rallied above this level and the highs of that bar and a little bit higher, but then we got this pullback. Trying to buy it right here. We went a little bit lower. That might happen. And I'm selling. If we rally up, if we can go to a new high, I'm going to sell the whole thing into rally near the 114,000 to 116,000 area. Could it go a little bit higher? Yeah, but that's my strategy. That's the way I'm playing it. I might take a short up there. I'm thinking about it. Hedge my core long position, which I'm doing absolutely nothing with because I do think we'll get the pullback for wave two. If we get a lower high, I can start raising my stop to break even, start raising my stop with a trailing stop. Signals flip back to bullish, we can go make a new high. So again, realistic expand. I want to just show you this quickly. We have this potential bull flag. If we go up, break out above it, bounce off the 50-period moving average, you got this resistance level. That's where I think we're going to form the divergence. But if we overthrow this level, you have up here the 78.6 Fibonacci extension. So we could overthrow this level. And that's why I'm saying this is at 121,000. My guess is we won't reach that level. My guess is we're going to stall probably at the trend line at 114,000. We overthrow it and go to 115, 16,000, something like that. I think that these highs are pointing to the next high. I think it's going to be something like this and frustrate the herd, frustrate the moon boys. Get this pop, the divergence forms, and you get this pullback. And then after the pullback, bigger shakeout than what we're having right here. Or if this is it, we get a lower high and this continues down and we get the right shoulder right here, right now. Certainly possible. We don't want to rule that out. I'm telling you, it looks like on the awesome oscillator and the RSI that divergences are likely going to form. Divergences are often associated with tops and bottoms with Bitcoin. A divergence marked the top over here, both of those tops. A divergence marked the bottom here and the bottom over here. It's likely we're going to see a divergence on some indicators like the histogram marked up here, or some of those Class B divergences that I've talked about that gave us the sell-off. It's likely we're going to form a Class A divergence where we get a lower high on the RSI and the awesome oscillator. This divergence right here, we had a divergence on things like right here on the awesome oscillator for Bitcoin. Look at Bitcoin. It's still, the awesome oscillator still in positive territory. It's got red. I think it's going to turn back up and you're going to get green. You're going to get positive. But then I think you're going to form this larger divergence. We did have a divergence on the awesome oscillator, and some other indicators had Class B divergences. Here, Class A, because the indicator made a lower high, price made a higher high. That's a Class A. B is when you have two equal peaks on the indicator, price still moves higher. I think you're going to end up getting that divergence. And again, that can go into the CPI next week or whatever the catalyst may be that may turn it down next week, or the following week with the Fed. There's a very good chance the inflation data is going to turn back up, as I've talked about. You can have that happen this month or next month. Right now, some of the economists are expecting that it is going to tick back up, and eventually it can be a freak out and saying, oh no, the tariffs, they're causing inflation. And tariffs don't cause inflation, but inflation is caused by an increase in the money supply. But the money supply is increasing right now, which eventually we're going to see inflation tick back up. It'll be blamed on the tariffs when it does. It'll be an excuse for a sell-off. So again, do we get this pop and a drop or a lower high? We'll be watching for clues. But again, I expect the target level of 114 to 116 to likely be reached. But like I keep saying, I could be completely wrong. Just to tell you what I think. We have a rally right now. Will the rally hold? If we end up selling off, you could get an inverted hammer. Here's a reversal pattern. If we end up selling off by the end of the day, remember that I said that because it is possible that we do see that happen or pull back over the weekend before trying to break out. But again, you do have a bull flag pattern. Now, why do I say the rally might fail? Well, right when we opened this session, we had a green circle underneath that bar, marking it as a bottom. Right now it's disappeared. It's gone away. I've come up to the orange line of resistance. We may stall there and pull back. Still may get the green circle before the session ends, or maybe over the weekend we might see it form. Not form at all, but oftentimes the circles, the red circles and the green circles mark tops and bottoms. This is just looking at short-term momentum. And a lot of times they mark reversals. It's just where bottoms occur and we get counter trends like over here and over here. But other times they mark tops and bottoms. Here predicted the counter trends. It was correct over here. Predicted the counter trends. Over here, I told you about this signal when it happened. Sold into the rally, and then we get this signal right here. And now we've dropped below the orange line, and we've come back to the purple line. The purple line would act as support. We saw it act as support. Over here, we moved just beyond it, and then we bounced. Over here, we moved just beyond it, and we actually went and made a new high. Over here, we broke it, the purple line, and it acted as resistance. The purple and the orange line acted as resistance all the way down. And when we tried to rebound, the purple line, when we got above the orange line, the purple line stalled the advance all the way until we broke above it. All I'm trying to tell you is whether the rally fails today or whether we pull back over the weekend, maybe we just break out, but we did have a signal there. Maybe it's canceled out and it doesn't come back. But I'm telling you, it was there right at the open when we were tagging the purple line before the rally got underway. We had it. So if we pull back today or if we pull back over the weekend, you could see it reappear. It could have been canceled out if we just have a powerful move up and a breakout. We'll see what happens. But oftentimes it marks tops and bottoms. I create my own indicators, and this to tell me when there's price exhaustion that might give us pullbacks or reversals. It does an outstanding job. We still have red bars. We're still below the orange line. In order to turn it around, you got to get back above the orange line. You got to get back to blue bars. Advance is going to resume. Your counter trend for a lower high or a higher high. There's a possible 5-leg push down here. Could be setting up a zigzag 535 pattern if we end up making a lower high. Open-minded to that. This could just as easily be a complex corrective move to see here, or a B, C move. So again, Elliott wave is speculation. Don't read too much into it. Looking for a bounce, and I'm looking for a possible lower high or higher high. I don't think the rally continues. It never looks back, as the Moon Boys are telling us. Boys didn't think this sell-off was possible. And the herd too, and they certainly didn't think this was possible. Indicators correctly called the very day of the December and the January tops. I told you we had momentum signals bearish. Then the trend signals were mixed, and signals like right here were bullish. Now they're bearish. But if we can rebound, they might turn back to bullish. Like over here, we tried to flip bullish, went back to bearish, and flipped back to bullish. This could mean we have a topping process. When you start seeing signals go from bullish to bearish, back to bullish, well, could have a topping process. Over here, it was a double top. All my indicators, signals went back and forth over here, going from red, and then some of them flipped back to blue here and back to red, marking a bottoming process. And I'll be watching to see, can we get the traction off the 50 period? Don't be surprised. Are you listening? Are you listening? Don't be surprised if we get back to rally, get something like an inverted hammer. Here's a reversal bar. If we close strong, but then we pull back over the weekend, going into next week, it's certainly possible. All my signals are bearish, getting some warning signs like that circle. Maybe we get a bottom here at the 50 period moving average. Now, with the rally, look right here. We're trying to flip back to blue. We had blue, went to red, back to blue, to red, again, suggesting that we're in a possible topping process. Start going back and forth. Over here at this top, we started going back and forth, and in this larger topping process, back and forth from blue to red to blue to red, back to blue to red, and then eventually we got this, and we ended up selling off 32%. Now, if bars can flip here by the close, and we won't know until the close, then maybe you get a breakout of that bull flag or a pullback and a breakout if we close strong. If we close weak, maybe the bar closes red and turns back to bullish with either the breakout or further consolidation if we can hold above our 50 period. But I'm just telling you, again, I had mixed signals. Signals are mostly bearish, but I am getting some signs that, hey, maybe try to get that rally to break out of the bull flag for the lower high or the higher high. My guess is we're going to move to the trend line, but like I said, I'm very open-minded to the lower high scenario. I'm expecting the bigger pullback. As a trader, I want to be flexible. Getting a blue bar here on the Friday session, we now start getting blue bars, or does it go away and get canceled out if we end up selling off? Right now we're up just under 3.5%. Does that rally fizzle out by the end of the day or not? And again, I told you I had signals that were still bullish. Others were bearish with the trending signals. This one had still been bullish up until just a few days ago. We have signals all bearish. If signals can revert back to bullish, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, you could see new highs. Here, the signals are now bearish, but we're getting this rally. We'll see what happens with it. Those are absolutely amazing. I think we're in a topping process here. The topping process back over here, much like the bottoming process back over here, I think you have a topping process that will end up giving us a bigger pullback. Could I be completely wrong? Yep, I could be completely wrong, but I have the gut. Look what's happening here. Again, my signal's correctly called the day of the bottom. Do you see this? And then it was confirmed. Do you see the black reversal bar right there? The black reversal bar on the day of the bottom, and then 2 days later on the 9th with the launch of the reciprocal tariffs. Paused immediately. We had that big rally, and then a couple of days later we had the trend signal turn back to blue here, and we had the breakout of the downward trend line. We break out of overhead resistance for our double bottom pattern. We talked about this at great length of detail. And we had this massive run up, which again signals cut the majority of that move, up over 50%, because I accumulated my position at these lows down over here. Initially started a small position when we came to the 200 period moving average and built upon it. Indicators were telling me that we were in a bottoming process, that my indicators were correct. A key 74,000 area. I sold again 75% of the position the day before the top near the highs of that session. Bought it back, trying to play this bounce back up that I still think is likely going to be the case. I could be wrong on that, but here we have a reversal bar. You can see it as clear as I can. We've got a black reversal bar today. Now, the close isn't until several hours away, so we don't know if it's going to close that way, but probably got a pretty good chance. Even if we give the rally back, you still might have a reversal bar. Pointed out up here, there was no topping signal. There was no reversal bar. We had it over here with this correction. We had a reversal bar here with this correction. They were only sideways corrections. There was no topping signal up here. We had a topping signal. We had topping signals at the December top over here. We had topping signals. We had the top and then the reversal bar. We had the top, went a little bit higher, got the reversal bar, and we had the reversal bar with the counter trend. We had the reversal with the top in January. We had the bottoming signal back over here. We didn't get one here. My guess is we're still going to get it. But we are getting a possible reversal bar here at the 50 period moving average. We won't know until the close, but could that give us a trend extension and continue the rally to complete the 13 count on Bitcoin, another 13 and a 9? Talking about this video, and as I've been talking about my last several videos. But we had blue bars, flipped to red. Now it's flipping to a black bar, saying you've got a possible reversal here. Even if we get back the rally, still might show up. Before the rally got too strong, this signal began to show up. It gets canceled out and goes away if we by the close, but I think you got a good shot that we're forming a bull flag to continue on higher to the levels I'm talking about, that these highs are pointing to the next high. I think we'll complete that divergence I've been talking about on the RSI and on the oscillator. We'll have to see my signals. Some of them try to turn back to bullish. We're going to go to try to make new highs. We'll be watching. Do we get a counter trend? Do we get a higher high? Absolutely incredible signals. I want to spend a moment talking about this because, again, back at the bottom, I pointed out that the Bollinger Bands were tightening up. And again, we had this bottom right here. We came up to the upper band, and then we turned down, and I told you we could see a move to the upper band, come back down to the lower band. I was talking about this before we reached the lower band, and then reverse. That's exactly what happened. We saw the same thing over here. We hit the lower band. We came up to the upper band, the Bollinger Band here. We came down to that lower band, and then we reversed. We actually went and made a new high for the double topping process here, for the bottoming process and the reversal. We could see the same thing here, where we go to the lower Bollinger Band, we come back up, we move above the upper one, and then we get a reversal back down for a bigger pullback. We could see the exact same thing that happened over here. Lower band, go to the upper band, come back up here, went slightly lower, but then the reversal. You could see the exact same thing happen. Very common with Bitcoin. You sell off, you trigger all the stops for the long positions, and then you run it back up, chase it back up, they buy the top, and then you do it again. And here, by going back up, you do the short squeeze and you stop out all the shorts. So again, they love doing this kind of stuff. They laugh at the herd, trigger the stops, do the short squeeze, and then They chase it, they buy all the top, they buy the top, and then you dump on them again. That's what they're doing in all likelihood. We get the lower high, and they're doing it in a smaller degree, with a smaller degree. It says you're going to go move to a new high. Now I'm going to remove some of my indicators so you can see this, and I want you to see what I'm looking at right here. Look at the line, the trend. It was flat. We went lower. But then we turned back up and we turned green. Everything turned green. The bars were green, and then eventually the line here representing the trend turned to green. It was a breakout of the downward trend and the breakout of the overhead resistance for a double bottom. But look at the line now. It's gone sideways. It's not red turning down. It's not green going up. It's going sideways. It's neutral. It's orange. Okay? Oftentimes you'll drop below, move above the orange line, and then go the other direction for the bottoming process. Oftentimes you'll come down here and then turn back up for the topping process. This is telling me we're likely going to go back and challenge the highs. Whether a lower high or a higher high, we'll see. My guess is you're going to make a higher high. But again, this, because it's not turning down and going red, is telling me we're likely going sideways in a topping process. We were going sideways here in a bottoming process. It eventually did turn red, but then turned right back to green and neutral, and eventually, again, that was just showing that we're going sideways. I have a really good example of it back over here at this topping process with our double top. Again, we were rallying. We had some volatility here and some volatility here, and that turned it to neutral. And eventually we bounced off of this level. Here we've just slightly turned under it. Here we slightly overthrew it, but here we bounced off of it, slightly breached it, and then bounced. Took us to a new high. We formed the divergences, and that gave us our first top. And then we came back to it. We still were going sideways. Tried to flip it back to bullish here. It failed. And again, violated this level just a little bit, but then went to a new high. We ended up forming a double top, and this took some time. I don't know that it takes that long, but we ended up forming a top over a couple of months. I think you're going to form a top here very, very quickly. We got a peak in May. We'll probably see a peak in June, and then a June sell-off. And then again, the pullback for the right shoulder, the inverse head and shoulders I'm talking about. That peak, then things turned neutral, and then they turned red and stayed that way. We formed that double bottom pattern. I think this is suggesting that we could get a pop-up and see a breakout of the bull flag and a pop-up to that upper Bollinger Band. We just tagged it with the May peak on May 22nd. So you're going to reach that level here in June and then probably see a bigger June sell-off. There was no topping signal here either. I think that we could still get one. Topping signals at the December high, at the January high, at some of these bottoms, a bottom here before the new highs, the bottom here for the counter trend, and the bottom right here, the very day of the bottom before the big rally. Here we got a sell signal, but it only produced a sideways corrective move. Still think you can get these sell signals that I've been talking about if we go to a new high, and I think you can get a 13 count or maybe even a 13 followed by another 9. If we end up trying to rally into the Fed meeting a week and a half from now. As we're getting the rally, I'm getting a signal that we're trying to get a bottom here. Whether the signal gets canceled out by the end of the session, I won't know until the end of the session. There was no topping signal at the top. We did get one here. Again, we got one over here before we turned higher. Was that marking the peak? Maybe. The times that's marked tops and bottoms, it marked the bottom over here just 2 days after the bottom. It just shows price exhaustion in one direction or the other. Turns might happen. Other signal, I had it with the circle, but it got canceled out. Maybe by the end of the session we end up having it. Watching. Now, we still have here blue bars. And again, this candle is undecided because it's still, the session's still going on. It won't be decided until the end of the session. We're trying to bounce off the ribbon. Again, in December, we broke the ribbon. We took it out. Bars turned to red. And then we tried to flip in January. Couldn't do it. We had red all the way down. We reaffirmed the signal. We tried to flip it right here, moving into the ribbon, but it failed. That's what the little gray lines are telling us. So we tried to flip it, but it failed. And then we ended up still going and making a new low. Here, right now, we're turning gray. We're trying to flip it, moving into the ribbon. You got to take out the ribbon if we're going to get a bigger sell-off. So we could bounce off of the ribbon. The ribbon, again, nailed the sell-off, nailed the rebound, and we're still got blue bars. Again, this is the guiding light. Bounce here, we can still end up going higher. For a bigger sell-off, you got to take out the ribbon. I programmed this indicator to look at the bigger trend. The bigger trend down, the bigger trend up. Signal's still bullish. And again, mark the reversal after the top, mark the bottom. Here, the reversal after the bottom. Absolutely incredible signals. What I'm trying to tell you is we can bounce off the 50. We can bounce off the ribbon here. We can bounce horizontal support, as I've talked about. So we'll be watching at a lower high. You got a shot at a head and shoulders pattern here. That if we do get a lower high for a counter trend, patterns in play, my guess is you're going to see the divergence set up in all likelihood, but I'm open-minded to the lower high scenario.